Now it's time to let these boys and girls out. We are getting them used currently to be in the dog enclosure during the morning, so that it's easier to move around in the compound and not worry about the gates and all that. And now that work is done, I will now open that door there and let them roam the place. So, weg, 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 Olaf. Ja, weg. So, bleib. Bleib. So, bleib. Checker, bleib. Schneeflocke. Nein. Bleib. We are trying to learn how to do this. Checker. Bleib. Checker. Geh mal weg. So, bleib. Bleib. Checker. Bleib. Geh weg. Weg. Checker. Weg. Weg. Aha, hinsetzen geht auch. Bleib. 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 Nein. Checker, bleib. Und Franz. Nein. Bleib. Bleib. Today is not so hot like it was before, but it's still hot. So this here is not the final solution. It is something that the guys were able to do today, just to mitigate the risk that something much worse could happen. So the blind mare, Sacagewea, oh, she's not completely blind yet, but half blind, is now in there, and her friends like Tuscarora here are around, and we have to find out how to improve this. I believe this is too small. We need to make this a little bit better, but at least the basics are there, and she will definitely not fall or break her leg or something even worse than that, because to a horse a broken leg is basically a death sentence, so we definitely want to avoid that. So this is an ongoing thing, and this is just a quick solution between knowing the problem which happened on Monday and today, which is Wednesday. And to illustrate this a little bit, I show you a few of the dangers that are around. So this here she did herself, because she ran against this fence and destroyed it. So now there's a sharp piece here, and that could create a problem. And of course she could entangle her feet into this wire mesh here, and that creates another problem. Here is another potentially sharp object, and if I go around here, this piece of metal which we want to use here for something is also a potential danger, and it continues with these pins here, so she could run against it and basically put her body onto it, and then it's a very, very big problem. And of course all these boulders here there are also perfect opportunities to harm herself. So we better keep her in this little cage for the moment, instead of having to deal with something much worse. During the hot part of the day, this was in complete shade. Now that the sun is much lower and in the west, this is now in full sunlight, but then the night will come and it will be a lot cooler again. The only bad thing is that there was an accident with the water, and so she's standing in a lot of mud, but that happens also when it rains. So if it's for a short period of time, it's not a big problem. If this is for a prolonged period of time, then of course it is. And as you can see, the others, they stand around. So she's not alone there, but she cannot go anywhere, and that is something she don't like. As some of you suggested, and I was also talking about this, we have now installed 2 sprinklers here in order to motivate the Cynodondactylon, the Bermudagrass, to grow. And this should work because it's pretty hot in the temperature range that this grass likes it. But of course nothing grows without water. And with some water, this should now explode, hopefully. So we leave this for the day, and then next week we should see some change here. And yes, I understand this would be better if it were at night, but as we don't have any power that we could use during the night, we have to do it during the day. So this water comes out of a well which sits right over there, and there is a solar panel for the pump on top of it, and this only works during the day when there is sunshine. And that is also the maximum amount of sprinklers that we can use at the same time with one of these pumps. So we don't have more pressure for more than 2 sprinklers, plus the limitation that we have to use the sun for the electricity for that. There is no deep well, and we don't want one. That would be a environmental disaster. And we don't want to burn gasoline for a very powerful pump. It would pump the well dry within a short amount of time. So it's better to do this way and be a little bit patient. And that is also why we have now shifted to work on 1 area at a time, or maybe 2, and do this in a more planned fashion than all the experiments that we did so far. We have learned from these experiments, and even if it was a failure, we have learned something, so that is good. It's not a bad thing, but now we need to apply that knowledge. That green here could be the result. So it is just a question of managing moisture, biomass, carbon in the soil, and shade, and then it will come. But of course it's a lot easier to do this in small areas than all at once in a very large area. The guys are moving this water tank so that Sacagewea has an independent source of water. The problem at the current location where they did this quick and dirty solution is that the waterer is connected to the main water pipe, and it has a lot of pressure and easily gets disconnected, and then she has no water. And also we noticed that the other horses reach in and steal some of the water. So that's a problem. So this whole thing has to be moved. Also noticed that she's pretty upset. She tries to get out of this, but on one eye she's definitely blind, and in the other she can see some shadows. So this is definitely not enough to let her roam freely, which is why she is in this cage in the first place. But she needs time to adjust and understand that this is better for her, so that she does not hurt herself. She's also calling out frantically to the other horses. The sketching with the hand on the ground in horse speak means I am very pissed off. And she wants to do something. But as I explained, it would be dangerous to let her out. The Paulownia trees here in the loosened soil continue to grow very well. And we have also seeded some Bermudagrass between them in order to cover the soil with something. I have also received the nipple waterer, and I seem to be using it just fine. It saves a little bit on water, but most importantly, it makes less wallows there where the waterer is. And it cannot be dirty, so the water is cleaner. Which is a huge improvement over the other model there, which is for very small pigs usually. And they just clock it in no time. Interesting is also this here. This is the vetiver that the cows ate while they were allowed to do that. And it comes back. It does receive a little bit of water, but I think by now it is able to also tap into the groundwater. And therefore it is coming back and it's looking very healthy. So this does work here in this particular spot. I can also show you is that everywhere there's a little bit of moisture, the Bermudagrass is also showing up. So each time we spill some water here, this benefits from it. And you can see it here as well. And of course, there where there's always a leak, down there is a lot of it. Of course, while the cows were here, they grazed it off, but being a grass, it comes back quickly. And speaking about the bovines, so they have been here for a while, and this area is now vacant. The bovines are in CT1 because there's forage, and we will now use the time while they are out to do some excavating work here, because we want to prepare this area for the upcoming Miyawaki forest. We had the sprinklers on for a day. It's been a few days, not a week yet, and the idea is to do this once a week for a few hours to see how the Bermudagrass will react. So this is the first look at it after some sprinkling. And we need to compare how this will then go. It's an experiment. It's not that this is now the way forward, that we will sprinkle all over the paddocks. Here it is convenient because the water source is nearby. It's the pump that sits over there. So this is very easy here. So we can do this, and the well has enough capacity. Let's see how Mr. Bull is doing, and I will provide him also 5 kilos of alfalfa pellets. He gets injected frequently with some anti-inflammatory medicine, and he has been laying down and getting up, so it looks like he is on the way to being better. And here on the other side, there we have the other patient, Sacagewea, in her cage, and the other horses are providing her company, which is good. When she's alone, she freaks out, so she needs time to adjust. I didn't put this right in front of him so that he has a reason to get up. And he does, so that is good. Let's go around and see. But it looks like he's able to put weight onto his hind legs. So you see, it's difficult, but he's able to use the right hind leg. So he will make it, and that is what we want. It's not about, oh, this is a breeding bull and stuff like that. No, no. It is about each and every animal. They are of more value to us alive. And like I tried to explain on our website that is now up, caimito.eu, this is not a meat production operation. We are not in this for the beef or something like that. It's all about restoring the ecosystem. Because when in summer it looks like that, what can you produce? Nothing. So we have these animals not for their flesh, but for their function in the ecosystem. Of course, when something happens, like the tuberculosis cases, or when they are too much at some point, yes, of course, then the beef is an outcome. But it's an outcome, it's not the objective. I think that is important to understand why we take certain decisions and certain routes, and why we don't decide in the same way as a beef producer would, or a purely plant-based permaculture project. This is also permaculture. There is nothing in permaculture that says you should not have animals. Animals are an important part of any ecosystem. The question is how you optimize your system. And we try to optimize the whole so that we can restore soil fertility and build humus and get this place green. So also here, when the time comes, we will have the pigs to uproot this, and then we will establish in this area, see the project page on caimito.eu, we will then have also here a Miyawaki forest. And later on, in that very same Miyawaki forest, we have a lot of birds, like geese and chicken. And of course, there will be a product as an outcome. But again, it's more about the fertility And once we have the fertility, which is a long way out, we can then sell surplus in different forms, be it meat, beef, eggs, or in the case of the geese, one of those. So we can also have turkeys. So there is at the very end a variety of food that is available for humans. But at this very end, and only then when the ecosystem has been restored and is functioning. Another look at the horses here. Librada looks at me because I have a bag in my hand, and here and there they get a few pellets themselves. We don't want to overfeed them because they're not working, so they don't need that much energy, and we don't want them to become fat. But the interesting thing is, Sacagewea is very calm when the rest of her herd is around. They cannot fight about rank, which is the reason for the cage. So the reason why she is in there is, she used to be the lead mare, and now that she's blind, the others basically can have a field there with her, and in the process of fighting out the rank and pushing her to the very lowest rank, they might even kill her or hurt her that much that we then have to put her down. So we don't want that. We definitely want her to be alive and around because she's only 12 years old. It is a shame because this mare is very well educated and could be doing so many fun things from a horse's perspective. But now she's basically confined to a structure like that. But we are working on a solution to find a way to make this structure movable so that she does not stay there for the whole time, because it's not good for the soil either. So we want to have something that allows us to move her up and down here in this area. And that also makes the handling of the manure a lot easier. Because right now it's like cleaning a stall in a barn, and that is additional work, and we try to be smart and avoid this work. So when we can have something that works like a chicken tractor, we can just move it away, and then it is much easier to recover the product and use it elsewhere, for example in the garden. So this is now a week old. On Monday we had this problem, and so far it's not an issue, so we have it under control. Another ration of alfalfa pellets. And they are step by step eating up the remaining forage that we have in here. And by the way, today is going to be a very hot day, because the forecast says 43 centigrade. So we will see how that goes. It is already 36 and it's 11:30. And as you can see, the little ones are also eating the very same alfalfa pellets. So that is good. They are in the transition, and they will suck less milk out of their mamas, which helps their mamas to transition to being dry. That means natural weaning is definitely working. No need to interfere, which makes me happy, because I believe less interference, let the animals do what they know best, is the better way. What you saw there is not the whole herd. A bunch of them are there. That is only from 11:30 on the water is working, and they are thirsty. So that means no alfalfa pellets for them now, because by the time they are done, the pellets are gone. But they will receive a ration tomorrow. So it evens out over time. And as you might have expected, all the green is gone. They ate it all up, certainly on the first day. But that is what we wanted, so that's okay. And when autumn comes around, the plan is to seed daikon radish and a few other things here that are suitable for the cold season. And of course, depending on how everything goes, we will subdivide these 4 hectares here so that we have some more manageable areas. And we do what we can, and it takes as long as it takes. It's an ongoing thing, so there is no rush to have something installed. This is nature, so it goes in cycles. And what cannot be achieved in 1 year can be achieved in the following year. There is no problem. So here they are, and I can hear the water. So that seems to be working, no issue. But of course, they drink so fast that it takes a while so that everybody gets their drink. And with these temperatures, it is certainly more than 30 liters a day per animal. But that's not a problem, because it comes out of the outflow of the water reservoir, out of the shallow well that we have next to it, and then they urinate, and their urine is helping the soil life whenever there is some in the shade. So there is no consumption of water, it is just that it passes through the system, and that system includes the animal. And that is a problem. So the few Paulownia trees that we managed to keep alive after the attack from the wild boar, they are certainly gone and turned into a snack, because this type of fence is definitely not enough. It is hot and it has a ground wire, but the animal can slip through these wires because they're too widely spaced. So this is basically nothing, and therefore here on this berm there will be nothing until next year, when over autumn and winter we have a proper fence here that really keeps the animals out. So that is the other part. I keep saying that we need to take care of the fencing in order to plant, and it makes no sense to plant and then have the animals destroy it. And the animals are part of the system, so whoever says get rid of the animals thinks about a garden and not about restoring 45 hectares of dehesa. That is a totally different topic. So in a garden I can decide not to have animals and use human labor and bring in compost and all these things. But a garden is not 45 hectares in size. And a very huge one might be 2 hectares. So this is not comparable. But it's not a problem. Important is the biomass, and we can plant these trees by May next year, and by then this fencing also will look different. And after all, we will work zone by zone now, and we have to decide which zones we are going to focus on. And it might be that this berm is not one of those zones. So nothing happened. I keep following the little bull here. He is a curious one. I will now go and check on the Paulownias in CT2. They had been suffering from lack of water, and the guys installed a drip irrigation line. And I think I need to turn it on, especially today that it's so hot. Their leaves are hanging, so they have not yet recovered.